Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Joe Simons tōku ingoa. That is to say my name. Welcome everyone. Hello. My name's Joe Simons and I'm the Manager Content Discovery and Innovation at the University of Auckland, Waipapa Taumataro. Um, and I'm here as one of the members of the ANZREG committee. We have another couple of folks from the ANZREG committee here as well. Maureen's going to be keeping an eye on things in chat for us. And our beloved leader, Lorraine, is, if you see the Igaloo account, that's her. And theoretically, she's got the joystick as well. So we're around here supporting you all. So today, no mai haere mai. Welcome to our second ANZREG webinar of the year. This session's looking at the ProquestBooksEvolution. So looking at how libraries in our region are responding to ProQuest's evolving content model, including what that means for ebook and print acquisition, subscriptions, and other strategies that we're looking at. We have two sets of presenters today, but we're going to open it up to a Q&A session at the end. But before we step into that, an acknowledgement of country. So I'm speaking to you from Central City Campus in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, and we acknowledge the Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei as tangata whenua, the traditional custodians of this land, but as a representative of ANZREG, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which our Australian community work and live, and pay respect to their elders past and present for their wisdom, teaching and cultural knowledge. And just to start us off and set us in the right space, karakia, kia hora, te marino, kia whakapapa pōnamu te moana, he huarahi ma tātou e te rangine, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou e tātou katoa. Kia ora. So, a couple of exciting presentations today. So we're going to start off with Özlem and Susan from Monash, and then hand over to Liz and Kate from UWA. But to start us off then, I will say hand this over to Susan and Özlem to kick off with the first one.
Thanks a lot. I'm Susan.
Share my screen. Sorry. Thank you, Susan.
That's okay. I'm Susan, and I too would like to start with Monash University welcome, if that's okay. So Monash University recognises that its Australian campuses are located on the unceded lands of the people of the Kulin nations and pays its respects to their elders past and present. So thank you for that. So we'll dive right into the next slide. So our change context that we're talking about today. So like everyone, Clarivat's ProQuest announcement was unexpected and was inevitably going to impact our ways of working. So with this change in ebook central to a subscription-only, read-only model and replacing perpetual access with a broad subscription approach, we were required to reflect on our collection management strategy and align this reflection to our library's collection principles. From Monash University's perspective, our strategic collection management approach has always been emphasised flexibility, resilience and user-centred access. The new model removes perpetual ownership, challenges these priorities and requires us to rethink how we support stable, reliable access for our users in the future. Because of this, addressing the change model, we have completed a review of the change to understand our financial, operational and resource access implications and to identify the most sustainable path forward. Overall, this is about ensuring that our collection remains of all things sustainable and aligned with our institution's values, plus responsive to our users' needs. I'm going to hand over to Özlem now, who's going to discuss the intricacies of our approach.
Thank you, Susan. Hi, everyone. I'm Özlem. I'm the Collection Acquisition and Activation Coordinator at Monash University. So I will first talk about the risks that were involved in this shift. And as we all know, Clarivate operates as an aggregator rather than a publisher. Then they rely on agreements with a wide range of publishers and don't control the content themselves. As those relationships shift, coverages changes rapidly and long-term access becomes harder to guarantee. And we know that aggregator subscription models by themselves also carry well-established risks like sudden title removals, unexpected licensing changes, duplication across our existing EBAs and owned content, and reduced control over high-value material that underpins teaching and research. All of this makes it increasingly difficult to secure stable, predictable access, and especially when subscription terms can change without any warning. These pressures are exactly why we are moving away from relying on a single subscription model for the majority of our content. Instead, we are shifting toward a more resilient mix of acquisition models like EBA, DDA, and targeted single title purchasing. We already subscribe to Academic Complete, College Complete, and University Press from Clarivate, and we are now seeing removals with optional purchase pathways. With the purchase option disappearing after June 2026, the environment will become even more vulnerable, reinforcing that subscriptions alone cannot support long-term access. So to protect the stability of our collections, we are adopting a diversified strategy that spreads investment across platforms and models, which reduces dependency on any one vendor and actively manages risks such as access instability, duplication, and reduced ownership. This approach strengthens resilience and ensures our collections remain stable as the vendor landscape continues to evolve. Building on that shift, we are now taking a stepped approach to expanding our DDA and EBA plans to provide flexible, discipline-wide coverage that supports teaching, learning, and research. While doing this, our decisions are guided first and foremost by user needs. That means supporting even niche and emerging subject areas without focusing on numbers, because we know the value to our academic community goes beyond simple metrics. At the same time, we are strengthening our focus on return on investment and usage. For heavily used titles, we are prioritizing perpetual access and securing the highest license levels available to prevent access bottlenecks and ensure long-term stability. We are also paying close attention to accessibility. For example, when multiple vendor platforms are available, we are choosing those that offer stronger accessibility features and more reliable user experiences. Another key factor is platform suitability, especially for single title access. We are working with vendors who can provide the most seamless access pathways and the broadest coverage, reducing friction for users and minimizing platform-related issues. And yes, DRM-free is our preference here. And finally, we are aligning our work with the library's equity, diversity, and inclusion priorities. With the launch of Monash University Library's EDI Action Plan in 2025, we are taking extra steps to ensure our collections reflect these values. That includes actively incorporating titles and collections with an EDI focus to support a more inclusive and representative collection. Now I'm handing over to Susan to discuss the partnerships.
Thanks, Özlem. So in building vendor partnerships, our approach focuses on widening partnerships to reduce dependency on a small number of large vendors. A key part of this work is building stronger relationship with independent publishers, especially those whose content aligns with our strategic priorities, but is often missed in major vendor packages. We're strengthening direct communication with publishers who are typically only accessed through intermediaries. This helps us negotiate more effectively, understand their platforms, and advocate for our users' needs. We're also exploring alternative access points by working directly with publishers' own systems. This gives us more flexibility and reduces the limitations that come with vendor-controlled access models. A major driver behind this shift is ensuring our collection better reflects the library's Indigenous and EDI goals. These priorities are often underrepresented in larger vendor packages, So aligning our collection strategy with these commitments requires us to look beyond traditional vendor channels. Ultimately, this work positions us to expand access, reduce bottlenecks, as Özlem's mentioned before, and build a more inclusive, resilient, and values-aligned collection where possible. Monash University Library also remains committed to sustainable evidence-based collection management, which means we make decisions based on real data, usage patterns, and curriculum needs as well. We receive feedback from our community and take this into account when making decisions. Our goal is to invest responsibly while ensuring long-term access to resources our users rely on. We're also committed to building an inclusive collection with high-quality content. That means we are actively identifying gaps, bringing diverse voices into the conversation, and ensuring our collection reflects a full range of perspectives across disciplines. Supporting teaching, learning, and research remains at the core of what we do. We work closely with academic staff to align our collections with course requirements and emerging research priorities. Our resources are here to help students succeed from the first year learners to advanced researchers, and supporting academic excellence. We continue to strengthen our collection with equity, diversity, and inclusion at the forefront, in line with both the university and the library's EDI action plans in mind. We are committed to adding materials for underrepresented communities, ensuring our records reflect First Nations knowledges and values with accuracy and respect. The collection isn't only about procurement, but also about making the knowledge we hold in the library as accessible as possible. So I'm going to hand back to Özlem now, who will also discuss and reflect on our lessons learned.
Thank you, Susan. I think we wanted to be honest and just don't highlight only how we are going to approach the collection management, but take the moment to learn from the mistakes or the things that we need to fill the gaps. So I will now honestly reflect on what could be done better and how we are adapting our approach to be ready for future market shifts. Over the past few months, we have learned a lot about how we manage our collections and how we need to evolve to stay ready for future market shifts. One of the biggest takeaways is that our approach has to remain agile. Changes like the ProQuest shift can happen quickly, and we need processes that allows us to respond just as quickly. A key part of that agility is proactive risk monitoring. While we have always practiced progressive acquisitions management, this experience highlighted how important it is to anticipate risks rather than react to them. Going forward, we are building this mindset into our ongoing collection management strategy. We have also learned how essential it is to understand each vendor's business model and limitations. Aggregators, publishers, and platforms all operate differently, and not all of them can deliver the level of content coverage we need from them. A good example was during our review of ProQuest full subscription offer. We assumed we could rely on ProQuest for backlist access, and as ProQuest confirmed, collection is backlist focused with the full subscription collection, and we could use our EBAs to focus on the front list. But unfortunately, only one publisher could adjust their model to provide front list plus 2 years of backlist, and others just told us their EBA collections couldn't be separated. That insight completely changed our approach and highlighted the importance of knowing the details of every product before making strategic decisions. Another lesson we learned was the importance of proactive and coordinated communication with internal stakeholders. When information moves quickly in the academic communities, gaps in communication can create stress, misunderstandings, and expectations which cause problems that is hard to solve. While we were focusing on the management of the shift and providing a recommendation to the management, we skipped regular updates, which left our colleagues in the dark, thinking the library wasn't responsive to the change. We are now improving in this space by establishing regular update cycles for library colleagues who will be able to communicate these with faculties for their awareness, providing clear summaries and giving updates on coming changes and the impacts of these changes, and ensuring decisions and timelines are communicated early to avoid stress and surprises. Our aim in this approach is to reduce uncertainty, support trust, and ensure everyone has the same accurate information. And for the future, we are shifting to a more adaptive, diversified acquisition strategy to stay ahead of market shifts. This includes strengthening our mix of EBA, DDA, and targeted single title purchasing, reducing dependency on any one vendor while keeping the current subscriptions of ProQuest collections. We are also investing in platform resilience, accessibility evaluation, and data-driven workflows to support long-term stability. Building a resilient and flexible collection that can adapt to market shifts while protecting essential content and stable access for high-value teaching and research areas. This positions us to respond quickly to future changes while protecting access and strengthening the resilience for our collections. And ultimately, we are hoping this will take us to the dream collection that lets us sleep at night. Based on the insights gained through our review, we have decided to retain our existing ProQuest subscriptions rather than taking up the full ProQuest offer. This allows us to retain broad baseline access while avoiding the risks and limitations we identified in the expanded subscription model. This approach also supports Monash Library's principle of excellence by ensuring stable, high-quality access without locking ourselves into a model that doesn't meet our long-term needs. To address the loss of perpetual access titles from ProQuest DDA, we are transitioning those titles into JSTOR and EBSCO DDA collections where available. This helps us rebuild access in a more flexible, sustainable way while maintaining user-driven selection. It also aligns with our international principle by assuring our global Monash community can access resources flexibly and wherever they are. We are also reviewing additional EBA offerings beyond the 11 collections we already hold to strengthen subject coverage and address any gaps we have identified. As part of this work, we are looking not only at traditional EBA models, but also at open access initiatives, including opportunities to support Diamond Open Access and other emerging models. This aligns strongly with our enterprising principle, using new agreements, innovative models, and collaborative approaches to build a collection that adapts to user needs and contributes to a more equitable scholarly ecosystem. As we all know, these decisions won't be static. As the market shifts, we'll reassess and adjust our approach. This ongoing refinement keeps our strategy responsive and future-proof, which aligns with the framework of our collection principles and Monash University's values and community needs. Before I hand back to Joe, I would like to invite everyone to think about one thing you either agree or disagree on about our approach, or one thing you don't think we identified in our presentation and in our way of thinking. This will really contribute to our continued agile way of working, and I will appreciate it if you can share this with us after the presentations. Thank you. Back to you, Joe.
Awesome. Thank you, folks. And Agile isn't something that we traditionally associate with universities in general, but it is a space that we're having to move more and more into. Cool. So yes, folks, put your thinking hats on and stick any of those questions or thoughts you have into the chat, and we'll bring them up a little bit afterwards. But in the meantime, I will hand this over to Kate and Liz to tell us about their approach at UWA.
Thank you very much. Sounds like we're quite aligned listening to your talk. So, yeah, hopefully we can bring a little bit of something different as well. But I think we're very much on the same page. I'm going to share my screen now, hopefully. Okay, can everyone see my slides?
Yes, all good.
Okay, that's great. So we've called our bit UWA a bit of old, a bit of new, and a bit of watch and wait. I would Also like to run through a quick acknowledgement of country. We're presenting from Western Australia, and our university is located alongside the Derbarl Yerrigan on the Whadjuk Noongar Budja. The University of Western Australia acknowledges that we are situated on Noongar land and that Noongar people remain the spiritual and cultural custodians of their land and continue to practice their values, languages, beliefs, and knowledge. This is a few of the things that we're going to cover. I'm going to run through the first half, and then Liz will touch on our plans moving forward. So, UWA, a bit of old, a bit of new, and a bit of watch and wait. This reflects that we have given ourselves a lot of lead time. We're ready for this change 2 months before the cut-off. We have not thrown everything away. We're sticking with Rialto to the extent that it still provides what we need. We also have a lot of electronic options in the forms of existing EBAs and a DDA. We've taken a pretty calm and unrushed approach, and we're not being pressured into pivoting to alternative products. We're also seeing new options emerge at the time of Clarivate's pivot, and watching and waiting is allowing us to consider other things that might be on offer. So a bit of history. We started on Oasis and were early adopters of Rialto in mid-2020. It was a relatively seamless transition from one to another. With the move, we benefited from the integration and automation with Alma and an updated, easy-to-use interface. At the moment, for electronic products, we have privileged the publisher platform via Rialto, which provides unlimited access and DRM-free titles, followed by unlimited access through user models purchased on EBC up until now, with the benefit of rapid activation. EBSCO fell into third place for us, with less generous access and previously less facility for title-by-title management. For print, we have favoured non-rush purchasing on Rialto, receiving MARC, EDI invoicing, and shelf-ready material. So we've previously learnt some lessons that have informed our approach going forward. In the past, we had a very limited pool of print providers outside of Rialto. Our main supplier collapsed in mid-2024, and we had to move fast to fill the gap. This really taught us that diversification is important. We don't want to be wedded to a single supplier. So we moved to print accounts, hybrid manual and automated ordering, and continued to use credit cards for hard-to-find material. This prepared us for the quote-unquote shock of the Clarivat announcement. We did look at the new ProQuest package. We investigated the package, but we discovered lots of overlap with both owned titles and subscribed ones. It also didn't seem to replace what we were losing, and we felt that there was the catch that occurs with a lot of subscription packages, where there's a lot that we're not so keen on bundled together with a smaller portion of material that we're really interested in. And cost was really also a factor. So Liz will now cover for us the plans we have moving forward.
Okay, so with our plans for the print, after the Clarivate announcement, we looked at various options for supplying our print as shelf-ready and catalogued print material, because we wanted to continue having that as our primary source of our print material. We looked at various options, but we decided to use James Bennett, who were already supplying us with our print titles via Rialto. So we have moved to ordering directly from their platform, and we've now got a streamlined but more of a hybrid process, whereas previously all of the workflow was within Alma. But it is working well, so that, which is good. We also have other print vendors. We had a number of accounts with print vendors outside of our Rialto for books that we required. So these were generalised books, but we also had some with more specific suppliers of, for example, non-English texts and things like that. We also decided that we would set up more accounts after one of our other print suppliers was no longer available, because we realised we needed to diversify our spread of print suppliers. So we have a number of options for those as well, some of them which can provide processing and cataloguing services as well, and some of them we receive just the books, just as they are, as you would order. We also have a credit card option. We have the ability to purchase some books on credit card. We have developed some relationships with some suppliers who, if we need to source materials, we can contact them. And sometimes, unfortunately, the credit card option is the only option if a book is very hard to source or it is out of print and we need to purchase secondhand copies. The disadvantages of the change is we've had to move outside of Alma to source titles, which was very convenient just to be able to order within a Rialto system. It's not as automated as we had previously, and we've had to write a lot more procedures. The advantage is, though, there is no single source point of failure. So we have a good range. We have good suppliers which will provide us with the materials that we need, and we still have the luxury of being able to get catalogued and processed materials which come through very easily, and they're very easy to order. So that's great. We still have other options for end processing if we need it. And we've developed some really positive and productive relationships with our print suppliers, which has been really encouraging and nice to see that we can reach out and that people will help accommodate us. So it's great. So that's for our print. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask us at the end. We also have, I'm going to talk about our electronic as well. With our electronic, we source our electronic ebooks for perpetual access via Rialto, and we have been doing so. So we're going to continue to do that for our publisher titles. We've also added in a new aggregator with the VLE books, so that we have the option to buy books that are only provided via an aggregator. It's a source of, as well, EBSCO and the Ebook Central will no longer be on Rialto. So there is also the potential to buy books we haven't been able to purchase previously on this platform, which is a positive step. We will also be using EBSCO Collection Manager directly. So we'll be sourcing titles from EBSCO, which is, we have been doing that outside of Rialto anyway. So we have some experience with that, but we are able to source direct, source our mark and be invoiced. So it still is a very viable option for us to get access to those EBSCO titles. We also have publisher direct purchases. So we will be investigating any more that come available. Some publishers are not available on Rialto, so you need to source those directly. And we've been looking at the, we've been started purchasing from the Springer Librarians portal directly. So that provides a good opportunity to purchase some Springer title by titles. And you're also able to source mark and receive invoices that way as well. So it also works really well. We are going to continue with our publisher EBAs and our aggregator DDA that we have, and we may expand those, but we're not rushing into doing this just at the moment. We're just going to have a little bit of a break once we lose access to our DDA on Ebook Central. So we've done some analysis and we've been looking at what we are going to lose and what we can source elsewhere. So we will be following that up after the cutoff period. So basically, we're going to take a step back and properly look at the space around us. We have really already reduced our Ebook Central DDA pool, and we've that's primarily because of our EBAs that we've taken up. So it's hasn't been historically as big a change for us as it would have been probably 5 years ago. It would have been a lot more. So we will probably look at other publisher EBAs as we go along. The disadvantages of moving to non-Rialto ebook purchases is there's a lot more procedures and documentation. There's not one site you can go to, it was quite nice to be able to go to one site and find what you needed, and it's a bit more manual than it was previously. The advantages of actually moving away from that is it is actually providing us the opportunity to investigate and also the space to evaluate our current ebook sources. So it's making more space for us to discover what is potentially out there, and also I think also for publishers probably to look at different things that they can do. Our ebook central DDA did work for us really well. We had it since a trial in 2010 when it was started as an EBL. So it is a good opportunity for us to have a little bit of a rethink about how we do things like that. As I said previously, our ebook purchases were looking our primary source of title by titles, but this shift has made us explore outside that space, which is good. So in conclusion, what we've done is, although initially the Clarivate changes took us a little bit by surprise, it has given us the impetus to rethink how we're doing things in the purchasing space, which I think is a really good thing to do. We stuck with some things which worked well for us. We've taken up some new things which are also working really well for us, but we're also taking a little bit of a pause and seeing that space that's left when the Clarivate changes are finalised, and seeing what other opportunities are out there, and seeing if there's other things we haven't previously explored which will become valuable or may become available in the future. So we're keeping our options open. So any questions at the end? We're very happy. So thank you from me and from Kate.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kate and Liz. That was really interesting. And as you say, there's always the opportunities that come out of change that are worth looking at and having to think about, because there's always something new and interesting to look at as well. We actually have plenty of questions in the chat for everyone, so that's a good start. The first one that I have here is from Nathaniel at La Trobe, which is a question for Susan and Özlem. Before the Clarivate announcement, how important were firm orders and DDA to your ebook central acquisitions? You noted that you've used other platforms' DDAs to replace lost ProQuest DDAs, but I don't remember you mentioning how important it was or mentioning firm orders particularly.
I can take this one, Susan, if you're happy. Thank you, Nathaniel, for the question. I mean, we are kind of basing our acquisitions model with the demand-driven and the evidence-based to start with, and we moved away from the collection development like 2 years ago to let our users to shape the library collection. So yes, firm orders and the DDA is quite important to our collection development in this case. If I can talk with the numbers, we are receiving around 100 to 150 firm order requests from the academics and PhD students at Monash University per month, and because they are the only eligible group to request items for the collection, and we are trying our best to fulfill these requests, because with the firm orders, if there is any gap in the DDA and EBA packages, this is also giving us the option to run reports on the firm orders to see where we need to fill the gaps in our more automated collection access points. So they're all important. With the DDA, we had the JSTOR, EBSCO, and ProQuest DDAs, which is giving us really a big pool of titles for the triggering purchases for our users. With the ProQuest move away from the DDA as well, we are working with EBSCO, who is the DDA manager for our university library, to transition all available ProQuest titles into JSTOR and EBSCO to before like gaps are created, just making sure we are taking care of the like future requests that might come from our users. I hope this answers the question.
Awesome. So I'm not sure who this question's from, but it says to Özlem and Susan, thanks for noting the need to keep updating our library colleagues. It's a good reminder that all info sharing is important. But also the question, are any of us here using Gobi for print and or ebooks?
Yes, we are using Gobi. Actually, Rialto and Gobi are our two major ebook providers. And I feel happy that we kept Gobi instead of like, moving into Rialto directly. So obviously it was a good decision there. And we are using Gobi only for our print. We are not using Rialto. In 2023, we trialed print ordering via Rialto. And to be honest, it wasn't a successful trial. So we decided to stick with Gobi for the print, and they are providing shelf-ready items to us for the branches. And also we are using ALS for the local or anything we cannot purchase from Gobi. And Eastview is our languages provider for any languages other than English.
Joe, there were just a couple of comments in the chat of other people using Gobi, so I'll just read those out for the recording. Debbie Wallace said that they're using Gobi for print and ebooks at Flinders. Federation University, Julie Lessinger said they're using Gobi for print and ebooks. UNSW said they pivoted to purchasing ebook titles as soon as ProQuest notified us of the change. We've only found a few titles were only available on ProQuest. We also changed our DDA to remove ProQuest titles straight away and access EBSCO and JSTOR DDA, and did not see a big change. For us, the change really was not that big a change or stress. We continue to use Gobi for purchases and DDA that have had little issues. Good news is Gobi DDA is now included in Product Muse.
Oh.
I think those were the Gobi comments. Oh no, there's a whole pile more coming through. UNSW uses Gobi, not Rialto. We've not had any issues. Gobi manages our DDA. Bronwyn from SU says SU uses Gobi for OS titles and James Bennett for Australia. Print orders from Rialto never worked correctly for us at SCU. Macquarie is also using Gobi. Adelaide University using Gobi. UNE started using Gobi again, and University of Sydney is also using Gobi. So plenty of Gobi love.
And I don't mind saying we've recently moved back to using Gobi for print because our print supplier, we had a similar thing. They fell over early mid last year, but it's taken us a while because we've been with Rialto for so long to reset up our catalogue alignment with their content. So we've been finding that. So yeah, my systems team have been working with our collections around that. It's been a little bit of a challenge, I must say, because of that gap in time, unlike you folks who maintain them both side by side. So that has been a little bit of a challenge for us. Cool.
And Joe, there's been quite a bit of chat. Do you want me to read out the next questions for you? I've got them on a separate thing. Okay. We had a question put in the Q&A from Lachlan Young asking what sort of principles are Monash applying when evaluating EBA offerings?
Thanks for the question. When we are going through the new potential EBAs, the first thing now we are really looking carefully is the duplication. So we are trying to stay away from the duplication because there are a limited number of resources out there and almost each and every aggregator have their hands on them. And we are just staying alert with this one. It's also important for us that the coverage is assisting the teaching and learning in the Monash University, because sometimes some subject areas are outside of the EBA and there are some additional requirements or the price tags coming with these additional subjects, we are trying to provide access to our community as a whole. And then we can just let our users to use them as they need at the end of the term, we are going with the usage stage to make sure, like, we are going through the right items to add them into our collection perpetually. But also in this EBA lens, it's for us important to align things with our readings requirements, because any readings attachment for the titles, we prioritize this for the perpetual access.
Thank you.
And then there's a couple of questions related to VLE. If you want me to group them together, we've got Joe asking, saying, "Hi Liz, did you say VLE? We have found them a good source." And Zoe said, "I have been reading that VLE is good for education textbooks. How has the coverage been for areas outside of education for academic textbooks?"
We've only just joined VLE, so we only have one book at the moment. But we actually activated it with Rialto, which then it appears in our things, and there seems to be quite a lot of overlap between the current ones that are also in there. So I think that it should be good, and it's definitely provided us with an access point to get those titles which are not available via publisher platforms. So I think that it's going to hopefully it will prove really useful for us to be able to do that via our work process system. Yeah. Kate, we got any?
Yeah, I think it's so obviously when you look up in Rialto and you see the different platforms that have things, and what we're going to not be seeing soon, VLE is plugging that gap in some cases. It also has a little bit of different content to some of the other aggregators that we can see on Rialto at the moment. And as a bit of an aside, we're actually looking at on-platform purchasing very gently. We've just started looking at that because it has some alternatives to Vital Source as well, which is somewhere that we currently get our textbooks. And I know that various institutions elect not to use Vital Source for various reasons. There's a lot of administrative work and some costs involved, and at first glance, VLE textbooks look quite good on the platform itself. So that is something that we're exploring further as well.
Oh, okay. I'm seeing a few questions about EDI, electronic data interchange, but I'm pretty sure you were using EDI in equity, diversity, and inclusion. So if anyone is, and I'm wrong, and if anyone is using electronic data interchange, stick your hand up and let me know, and we'll ask those questions. But I'm not sure that we were.
We both talked about EDI in different contexts. What the rest of the sentence is, I'm guessing.
Yep. So yes. Because the question was, if you're using EDI, how smooth for electronic data interchange, how smooth was it to set up with the suppliers? But
yes, Liz can answer that.
It was fine for us. We didn't have any. We had our suppliers which we have EDI already with Rialto. That just comes in automatically, and we did set up EDI. I think as long as you make sure you've got really good match points and you're pretty explicit with your suppliers, like we're very, this is what we need, these are the points where we need it, this is where, and you work really closely with your suppliers, then generally I think that you can come to an agreement and then it will work quite well. I mean, there is always a bit of toing and froing, but because obviously if there's different systems and everyone has different ways they format their data, but we haven't had any issues at this stage with our EDI.
I think you put the work in at the start and then you get the rewards for the rest of the relationship. It is a bit of work to begin with.
I think you just have to know exactly what you want for your system.
Yep.
And then really explicitly say that's what you need, and then generally that works quite well. Yeah.
Yep. And I think Catherine's link question was about if you're using it for invoicing and pushing the orders out as well. That direction round.
No, we are not pushing our orders out. We are collecting the orders from FTP servers and then importing them as we'd like them to appear in Rialto, and therefore then have quite good match points then. So yeah.
And some more VLE questions. Eliza's saying that VLE doesn't completely fill the gap, but it's certainly helping in some situations. And someone else, and someone else saying, what pricing differences have you noticed around VLE? Is it more expensive?
A little.
I think it varies a lot. Yeah. So yeah.
Cool.
It also, it's kind of like price trading against things like DRM and things like that as well. Like,
yeah, I think it's
a lot goes into the mix.
Yeah. We haven't really done enough to be able to actually, yeah.
And I can see Joe answered that one as well on the chat, saying that VLE has better pricing than VitalSource and that ANU have used it for about 18 months.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yes, we were quite struck on first look at the ability to sort of craft your own combinations of concurrent user licenses, and just the price per user license seemed quite good. But sounds like we need to go back, do some more, maybe report back. Everyone's very interested.
So Megan, question from Megan, who said, Susan, you mentioned creating or strengthening direct relationships with publishers. Is there an example you can speak to?
Özlem's probably better based to speak to a specific publisher, but I can just say that our principle in the acquisitions team is that we actually try and work and build those partner relationships. So that's, like right across the board. But if Özlem wants to speak to some of the relationships we're building post the ProQuest change.
Yep. So we are not really going after the single publishers to create this, but we are mostly working with our vendors to include these publishers that we are seeing gaps. Like I had a few meetings with EBSCO last year and the beginning of this year to add more indigenous work into the DDA collections to give the access point for our users. But also with ALS, we run some reports to understand where the gaps are sitting in our collection, the acquisition providing access or purchasing the print titles. And with these findings, they are also kind of creating these relationships for them to serve us with the right resources. So we are receiving shelf-ready print items from ALS, Gobi, and Eastview. So in this case, to keep the work with less manual handling in this case, we are working with our vendors to create the relationships and providing and supplying the more variety of the resources for us.
Thank you to that. So cool. And Zoe and Catherine are talking about additional costs of activating VLE and waiting for Ex Libris to return their ticket about it, and the possibility that you may be able to follow up with Brown's VLE directly rather than going via Ex Libris to set it up, which might help for those.
Yes, we reached out and got a direct contact at Brown's, and we found her to be incredibly responsive, and she's answered most of our questions and sent us updated terms and conditions, because we had some concerns around potential additional costs, which were actually eliminated with the new T's and C's. So I would just we did a generic outreach and established a relationship directly, and we found it to be very helpful. That's also given us a back-end login, which allows us to do things like control download days, which I know is something that people in acquisitions like to do, manage how much access people have to things. So I would recommend that if you're not getting traction, inquiring via Rialto or Clarivet.
Cool. Yep. And so Zoe says thanks. She's going to try going directly. And she'd been hearing about additional costs and was a bit worried. I think we've heard similar ones about high use items and things like that, and so we've similarly only got one so far from Browns, but
yeah, we think that might have been covered in the new terms and conditions, so it's worth having a read of them. There's just a bit less complexity around financial models than was previously sort of hinted at.
oh, all right. So, well, that's the end of our list at the moment. If people have got any more questions, do consider continue to put them in. We've still got a little bit more time. I looked at the time and went, we've used up a lot of it with chatting. That's great. I might just ask these folks a question, and one of the ones that we said
Joe,
beforehand.
before.
You've got
Sorry,
one more?
Joe. Just quickly, a couple of things that came up in the chat, mostly comments, but just to read them out here, UNSW mentioned that their biggest change is now to have selected publisher packages from e-textbooks via EBSCO. We have guaranteed access to the edition for the year and update news of any edition change before the end of the year. The move is to provide unlimited access to textbooks for students and to provide the latest information. It works very well with students who don't need to purchase, and academics have access to the latest. They also mentioned that they work very closely with publishers, trying to get them to understand the need for unlimited access to titles for teaching and research needs. Often our conversations have helped EBSCO to develop their relationships, such as Rawlings, Pearson. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, such as Federation Press, who did not want to provide an unlimited ebook option. And there is also a comment saying that they'd love someone would love the Brown contact if you're willing to share who you have the in with. And another comment that Amy Copeland said that the terms of conditions document initially supplied by Ex Libris was outdated, and hope that everyone has actually received the updated one. And we will also be putting these various comments in the chat as part of the recording, just so you know.
Cool. What did I have on this one? Oh, so I think you folks have both talked a little bit about what stood out for you during the transition, as what you've been working on, the directions you're choosing to take. But I would say, what do you think are the biggest opportunities or future directions in ebook and print acquisition models? That's our final question. Anyone want to step up?
I'll take the first bit. Or Susan, please go.
Thanks, Özlem. I suppose for us, it gave us an opportunity to identify that we needed to carve out a bit more focus on that part of the collection. So from a managerial perspective of the team, that was the conversations I was having with Özlem. It's like, okay, let's use this as a vehicle for a little bit of change in the way that we work in this space, and for her to become more of a specialist in this area for us, for that, bird's eye view oversight. So that's what it helped me sort of frame in my conversations with Özlem, and the way and our direction.
For me, it's not like, there are lots of things that we are trying to turn into advantages when we are finding our way forward. But also with this change, I think Clarivate assumed that it would be just accepted by everyone and everyone would just move the direction they are creating in this space. Whereas like with the conversation with my colleagues around here, like, and other university libraries, the majority sounds like they are not really happy to go ahead with the full subscription. And I'm hoping that this will give us, the institutions, the opportunity to shape the space. So I'm hoping that they will understand that, like, they cannot announce something overnight and expect that, like, everyone will just shift each and everything in their collection management and just accept the shift they are providing in.
Thank you.
I think it's provided us, we've always liaised quite closely with our publishers, and when we have good relationships, we will ask questions. And I think it's probably has increased our, we're not as reticent to ask, like if we say we really need this, like we're actually, and they'll get back to us. And most of the time that, if it's in with their power, they will actually make accommodations and they'll take it on board. So I think probably it's developing our relationships directly with our publisher, that reps, that is actually been quite a positive move for us as well. I think that has been a good thing to see.
Sure. Thank you. There's been a little bit of a sideways question in there about Thorium Reader, and has anyone turned it on for the EBSCO products? And Catherine said they moved to it on Tuesday, and our switchover was 2 days ago. I don't think we've had any complaints yet, but that's not very long for people to pick it up for those downloaded e-readers.
We've moved across already to the Thorium one, and there hasn't been any, we haven't had any reports that there's been an issue.
Yep. Same here. We moved last month and we haven't received any bad feedback or any issues yet. We'll see how it goes.
Yep. And UNSW just said that the opportunities it's allowed us to pivot in how we look at providing access for teaching and research needs, moving from mainly outright purchase to subscription access, but a subscription to front file access. It allowed us to develop what we called our Prescribed Resources Initiative, or what we call barrier-free access. But we've had some issues with off-campus access. But thank you so much, folks. I'm going to say we have hit our hour. That was really interesting, and a really good investigation to sharing the different types of challenges. But it looks like folks are very, as you said, the similar approaches to diversification and agile, and seeing how much of the conversation we can direct instead of the other way around, which is very cool. What I will do is I will just do a final couple of shares, because I will wrap us up with a kara here, given I started with one. There we go. Kia whakairia te tapu, kia wātea ai te ara, kia tūriki whakataha ai, kia tūriki whakataha ai, haumie, huie, tae kie. All right. Thank you all, folks, very much.